Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a lap guide for the new lap time challenge taking place at Monza with the new F3500-A. So to access this lap time challenge, going over to sport mode, so make sure you have menu book number 9 completed. Then click on online time trials and you'll see the current lap time challenges being held. So with this lap time challenge, we are on the racing medium tires. No, you cannot tune your car. And this event goes until February 12th, 2025, where your goal is to get within the 3% time range of the world record time when the event ends, as that is when your lap time gets counted, and hopefully you'll be able to get the 2 million credits. I will have the in-game replay in the description down below if you want to check that out. But first, this car is wild to drive, and because of that, I'm going to turn on traction control and I'm going to set it to 1 because that does save my butt, especially coming out of certain corners. But for this car, you do rev the absolute heck out of it before you shift up. And as you get started with your lap, you brake right before the 50 meter board, and I'm going to make my way down to 3rd gear. That way I can get a bit more rotation out of the car. But as I start to get on the throttle, I'm going to go up to 5th gear, and I only do this when I'm starting the lap. When I'm finishing the lap, I actually just go up to 4th gear, but we'll go through that once we end the lap. And again, rev the absolute heck out of this car before you go up a gear. Bring yourself towards the left, and your first braking zone is just after the 150 meter board. So you're braking before you reach the orange wall on the right, or, and I know this is not the best braking point, right as the shadow starts. So once you're right here, use all of your braking power and you're going to make your way down to 1st gear. You turn in after the 50 meter board and ease off the brakes as you're turning in. And as long as your left wheels do not touch this orange curb, that is fair game. Now notice that I'm already going back up to 3rd gear. I'm going to turn in almost right away, and I'm going to just blip on the throttle to try to keep up my revs, straighten up the car as soon as I can, and then go back at full throttle power. Now you want to stay towards the right. This turn can easily be taken flat out, and your next braking point is going to be after the 150 meter board, right after this wall on the right ends. If you can spot the path on the right, you can also use that as your next braking point. Use all of your braking power, and you're going to go down to 2nd gear. So you can see right there, I'm starting to brake, gonna make my way down to 2nd gear using all of my braking power, and I'm going to turn in right as the curb on the right starts. So just like in the first chicane, I'm going to take advantage of the curves, but for this chicane, make sure that my right wheels do not hit the orange curb. Here I go up to 3rd gear, and I'm going to briefly blip on the throttle to try to maintain my speed. I'm going to turn in towards the right, lift off our throttle, and make sure that my left wheels do not hit the orange curb. And you have to be really careful here because you want to get the car straightened up before you go back at full throttle power. If you try doing it a bit too early, you risk spinning out even with traction control turned on. Now, just after the 50 meter board, you're going to use around 75 to 80% of your braking power, and you're going to turn in almost immediately after. Go down to 3rd gear for more rotation, but exit on 4th gear, and you want to be really smooth with your throttle input. If you get too aggressive at Lesmo 1, you will spin out. For Lesmo 2, brake right before the 50 meter board, so you're going to use all of your braking power for a really brief moment. Go down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th gear, and just like in Lesmo 1, you want to be really careful getting back on the throttle. You want to be really smooth, because if you're even just a little too aggressive getting back on the throttle, you risk getting just a little bit too much wheel spin, and you're going to end up hitting the wall. Now bring yourself towards the right. You're going to brake right after this path on the right. So this path right here, brake right after you pass it. You want to be a little more precise. The 100 meter board is exactly where I start to brake. Use all of your braking power, and you're going to make your way down to 3rd gear for a bit more rotation. Turn in as you reach the 50 meter board, Go down to third gear, ease off of the brakes as you're turning in. Be careful about these sausage curves because if you hit them, you will spin out. Now as you hit the apex, go back up to fourth gear and you want to be really careful getting back on the throttle. Doing lots of throttle control as you go through Ascari. Go up to fifth gear and you want to either go over the sausage curves like with what my Ghost is doing, or go around them like with what I'm doing. Do not hit those sausage curves with your wheels, otherwise you're going to have a very bad day. But whatever you do, you want to try to go through the final part of Ascari nearly flat out. Flat out if you are a really brave person. Just don't hit the sausage curves like the one on the left. Be careful about turning in a little too much because that can also cause a car to spin out. Now for Parabolica, bring yourself towards the left. You're going to brake right before the 50-meter board. Use all of your braking power and you're going to make your way down to third gear. You're turning in just after the 50-meter board. So go down to third gear, exit on fourth gear, but you want to be really careful getting back on the throttle. So before the curb on the right ends, start to gradually ease on the throttle. You can go a little bit wide, but then bring yourself back in to reduce track distance. And again, just be really careful getting back on the throttle to make sure that the car doesn't spin out. But we'll go through this again, but this time we're not going to stop the video. So we're going to take it from the very top. Turn on traction control to 1 so I can hopefully not spin out as much. Get a brake before the 50-meter board, and whenever I'm starting the lap, I do go up to 5th gear. And I mean, you can do 4th gear, but you just got to be a little careful with your throttle input. Rev the absolute heck out of this car before you shift up gears. Gonna brake just after the 150-meter board, so where the shadow is. Gonna brake right there, down to 1st gear, take advantage of the curbs as you're still within track limits. Go up to 3rd gear, blip on the throttle to try to maintain the revs, and again rev the absolute heck out of this car. Gonna stay towards the right side of the track, go through this turn flat out. Gonna brake right after the 150-meter board, down to 2nd gear, take advantage of the curbs, up to 3rd gear, nice and careful getting back on the throttle. Try to straighten up the car, brake right after the 50-meter board and turn in, down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th, nice and careful going back on the throttle, and then just before the 50-meter board, start to brake and repeat the process for Les Mode 2. Gonna make my way over towards the right side of the track, gonna brake just after the path on the right, so this is right at the 100-meter board, down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th, back up to 5th, and just be really careful with your throttle inputs, avoiding the black and yellow sausage curves. And then gonna brake just before the 50-meter board, which is going to be right about now, down to 3rd gear for more rotation, back up to 4th gear, really careful going back on the throttle, and then go ahead and move towards the right to reduce track distance and finish the lap. And we'll go through this one more time, but this time we're going to be in bumper cam, and once again we're going to take it from the very top. So once again, I have traction control on for this lap time challenge, and I have it set to 1 because this car is absolutely wild to drive, and it does save my butt a couple times, especially coming out of the 2nd chicane. So rev the absolute heck out of this car before you shift up your gears. Go towards the left side of the track. Gonna brake right after the 150-meter board, so when the shadow starts, down to 1st gear, back up to 3rd gear, blip on the throttle to maintain your revs. Get the car straightened up as quickly as you can so you can go back at full throttle power. Then stick towards the right. This turn can easily be taken flat out. Now get ready for the 2nd chicane. Brake right after the 150-meter board, down to 2nd gear, back up to 3rd. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle, and make sure you get the car straightened up. Brake after the 50-meter board, down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th. Really careful getting back on the throttle. Brake before the 50-meter board and repeat the process just like in Les Mode 1, except you're doing it for Les Mode 2. Now go up to 6th gear, bring yourself towards the right side of the track, brake right after the path on the right, so right at the 100-meter board, down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th, 5th gear. Lots of throttle control needed to make sure they can go through Ascari as quickly as you can. Back up to 6th gear, brake right before the 50-meter board. Use all of your braking power, go down to 3rd gear, back up to 4th, nice and careful, getting back on the throttle and bringing yourself towards the right, and finish the lap. And with this, I was able to poke into the 123s. This was painful to deal with. I am very bad with high downforce cars, which is why I don't even want to know how much I spent trying to get to 123, but it was very painful. Hopefully it is a lot less painful for you to try to reach your goal of a bronze, silver, or gold medal time. But that's all for me. Hopefully this lap guide helps you out, and if you like this video, you can press a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But that's all for me. This is Mr. MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.